Alright, welcome to part 2 of this final board drafting project, the Mantle clock. As you can see, we already have the drawing drawn out. Now we're going to move on to dimensioning. So the first thing I recommend you doing when you're dimensioning this drawing is to grab a fresh sheet of the drawing that I handed out to the class. That way, we used this one in the first drawing and we changed all the dimensions since it was a scale drawing. Go ahead and use a fresh sheet, that way you don't confuse any of the dimensions. Just a nice clean sheet to start with. So when we're looking at this, we're actually missing a couple dimensions in here that I'm going to throw in here. Your copy of this drawing will include those, but mine doesn't. So we'll put those in while we're doing this. So if you look here, we have 3 rows of dimensions along the top. 1 row of dimensions along the bottom down here, and then 2 rows of dimensions on the right hand side of this drawing. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the top, get all the top dimensions done first. All these lines should be perfectly in line with each other, so we're just going to start by drawing 3 really long lines clear across the drawing, and we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take my T-square, you can use your T-square or your ruler, and I'm going to draw 3 lines up here lightly that are 1/4 inch apart. So we're going to go ahead and start that right now. So I'm just going to line up my ruler, going off the 1, pretending it's a 0. I'm going to make 3 marks, each of them 1/4 inch apart, 1/4. So now we have our 3 marks. And since we have those, we can go ahead and take our T-square and draw those lines out. I'm going to sit down real quick so I can do this properly. Make sure your T-square is on the left-hand side, as always. Line it up with the mark. And I'm going to draw 1 big line clear across here. There's 1. Make sure you draw these lightly. Dimensions are always lightly drawn. There's 2. And there's 3. Alright, so we have our 3-dimension lines right up here. Let's go ahead and start over here. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. So the first dimension, if we look at our drawing, lines up with the inside of this frame we built. If you recall, these 4 pieces right here are all a frame. So they line up and they are 6 inches. So we're going to line up our T-square. Notice the annotation lines actually cross into the drawing. Normally I don't have you do that, but due to the complexity of this drawing, how complicated it is, we are going to do that. Just make sure your dimension does not touch the line it's measuring, because we don't want to confuse it as part of the line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Got my T-square set up. Going to take my drafting square, line it up with this line right here. And I'm going to draw it up to that first layer of dimension lines. I'm not going to touch the line. Draw it clear up here, right about to there. It should look like that. There's a little space here, and it crosses the first line, goes about halfway up to the second line. We're going to put 1 there, and we'll put 1 right here. Just like that. So now we don't need, I'm going to erase my overlap lines here. Just this bottom row, we don't need any of this. I'll save the rest of this for this side. We don't need any of that, and we don't need anything over here of this bottom line. So you should end up with a nice small line right here. Go ahead and erase the middle of it. Throw in your dimension. The dimension says 6 inches. So that's what I'm going to put, the number 6. Make sure you label. I've had to take points off for labeling. Throw in some happy little arrows. Get your Bob Ross vibes going. And there we go. 1 dimension done. Quite a few left. So, this one is done. We don't need to dimension this. I like to cross out the ones I have done. That way I don't have to worry about them. Let's go to the second line. The second line goes to the outside of this frame. 7.5 inches, it lines up with the outside lines. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. And if I'm moving too fast, please feel free to pause the video, rewatch some parts. That's why I do these videos, so you can go at your own pace, however fast or slow you want to. So I'm going to line it up with this outside edge. Don't touch the line. Draw clear up. Cross the line about halfway to the next row. Just like that. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. Line it up. Don't touch the line. Halfway up to the next line. Just like that. I'm going to erase everything that I don't require on that, which is right there. And also right here. So you should end up with something that looks like that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so it's a little easier to see. Should end up with something like that. Go ahead and take a second. Make sure you're on the right track. I don't want you to get this wrong, especially if you're in my class and this is your test drawing, your final drawing. So we'll erase a little bit of this drawing. Remember, it doesn't have to be lined up with the previous dimension. We'll erase a little bit of the line. The dimension, 7.5. 7.5. Label. Throw in some arrows, just like that. Cross off that dimension, we're done with it. So, moving on to this top layer. This one is clear to the far outside of the clock, the very outside of like the top and bottom where it's widest. It's 9 inches, so let's go ahead and draft that out. I'm going to line it up with the farthest edge. Remember, don't touch the line. Make sure there's a little bit of a space. Go clear up, cross it, go over about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. Do the same thing on this side. Go clear up, cross it over, something like that. Erase our extra line. Remember, we're not erasing the whole line because we need these lines over here. Erase this line. Should end up with something that looks like that. I'm going to erase a little bit of the middle again. My dimension is 9 inches. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Throw in some happy little arrows. And there we go. The whole top of this drawing is done. That was pretty easy. Let's go ahead and move over to this one. This one looks a little bit more messy. I'll make sure we zoom in. I'm going to scoot the camera over so you can see this one a little bit better, just because it's a very intricate dimensioning. We have 4 dimensions on 3 lines. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with this. Oh, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cross out the 9. We're done with that. I'm going to start with this dimension right here. This one goes from the front of the frame right here to our first hidden line. This is the depth of the clock. If we were to look at the clock, which I still have it over here, thankfully, that is basically that depth right there. Hopefully you can see that. Right there. So we're going to go ahead and line up our lines and get this part done. So the first line is at the very front. So I'm going to take my T-square, I'm going to line it up with this front line right here. Remember, I'm not touching the line. I'm going clear up, and this dimension actually should cross 2 lines because it's the starting point of another dimension we're going to do later. So go ahead and cross both sets of these lines. And you should have something that looks like that. Alright. Should have something that looks like that. Now the second part of this dimension is this hidden line right here. So I'm going to line up my T-square with that, my T-square and my drafting square. Don't touch the line. And this one's just going to cross the first set of lines here, this first line here. So, got that done. I'm going to, actually let's make sure this is very clear right here. We can't fit the dimension in this part right here. We probably could, but it wouldn't look attractive. So we're going to keep this part of the line and we're going to label it over here. That way you can see this measurement refers to this dimension. So I'm going to leave a little bit of the line over here. Pay close attention here, you don't want to miss this. Leave a little bit of the line. Now I'm going to label it off to the side, not in the middle, off to the side. 3/4 inches. And I'll throw my happy little arrows in here, just like that. This one should look like this. So make sure you have it looking like that. Let's do the next one. So this one's measuring from the back. It should be 2 inches from the back of the clock to this other hidden line. So on your clock, this would be kind of this measurement in here on the back of the clock. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna cross off the dimension I just did. That way I know I got it done. First one we're gonna line up is right here. Draw it, just cross the first line, just like you did over here. Should look like that. And the second part of this drawing is clear over here towards the back of the clock. So we're going to draw that up just like that. There you have it. I'm going to erase the lines I don't need. I don't need any of this line over here. And I don't need this line in the middle here. So I'm going to use one of the holes in my stencil here and just clean that up. So there should be no line in between these dimensions. Erase a little bit of the middle. The dimension is 2 inches. 2 inches. Happy little arrows. Just like that. Cross that off. It's done. Now let's move on to up here. So again, this dimension isn't entirely correct. I didn't do my arrows. Hopefully your drawing is going to be based off the one I'm doing right here. So it's going to look a little better. And this one, actually we should have done, but I made a mistake. We need to extend this line we just drew up to the second line. So hopefully you can just line this back up to this line we just drew. Line it back up. Just take it a little bit higher. I didn't see that part. That one's on me. So it should be up past the second line. We'll go ahead and erase our extra on either side. Be very careful here. We're kind of getting into some tight spaces. Just like that. Erase a little bit of the middle. The dimension is 3 inches. Happy little arrows right there, right there. So that one's done. Last one we're going to do is this top one right here, and it's just the overall width of the whole clock. It's 4.5 inches. So I'm going to take my drafting square, line it up with the very outside of the clock, draw it up, just like that. Come over here, draw it up, just like that. So you should have these two lines right here, right up to that very top line that we drew. Erase your extra. Erase a little bit of the middle. That dimension is 4.5. Get some arrows going on in there. Alright, the top of this one's done. I'm going to erase any extra smudges I have. Get rid of all those. And there you have it. So all the top dimensions are done. while we're on this guy right here and I have the camera zoomed into it, I'm going to move this down a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bottom here. The bottom, we have 2 dimensions, and all we're doing is we're lining up all these hidden lines and dimensioning them. So I'm going to draw my horizontal first, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to line this up, make a mark at 1/4 inch. Take the T-square, line it up on the edge, come up here, draw a line, just like that. Alright, I'm going to draw all my verticals at once here. So we're going to line it up, we're lining it up with all the hidden lines. Let's go ahead and do that right now. T-square, drafting square. I don't know if you saw most of the top of this drawing. I guess I should have paid closer attention to the camera. Hopefully you did though. Okay, I'm going to back this up just a smidge so I can fit my drafting square here. I'm just going to line them up with each of these hidden lines. So there's one right there, a little bit past the line I just drew. There's one right there, a little bit past the line I just drew. And one right here, again, just a little bit past. So you should have something kind of looks like this weird little tic-tac-toe board we have going on. I'm going to erase my extra lines. Goodbye lines. Those right there. These right here. Should end up with something that looks like that. Now actually I made a mistake, because if we look at our drawing here, we do need a little bit of those lines to extend over. So hopefully you didn't do that yet. Hopefully you watched me do this. Watch this mistake before you did it yourself. But we need to extend these just a hair, about 1/8 of an inch over. So they look like that. Alright, I'm going to put this here so we can see it. I'll actually fold it, that way you see just what I'm working on here. We make these line up, so I'm going to put 3/4 inches on this side, 1/4. Oh, that's an ugly 4. Let's try that one again. 1/4 on this side. Gotta put an arrow here to signify that's what this dimension is. We're gonna put some arrows in here. Now we got to erase this middle part. So, what you're left with should look about like that. And it does. Cool. Alright. That part's done. Let's move over here. Do these edge dimensions right here. Now, a common mistake that people make, fold my drawing a little bit here. People love to go 1/4 inch off of this edge right here. That's not the edge of our drawing. The edge of our drawing's out here. So we're gonna go 1/4 inch off of that edge. So I'm gonna line up my ruler, mark out 1/4 of an inch. Just like that. Bring that back up here. It's crooked as all heck. I apologize for that. And actually, I made a mistake. Sorry, it's in the morning for me, so I'm still waking up a little bit. We need 2 lines here. Another 1/4 inch right there. Now we can go ahead and draw our lines. I'm going to zoom out just a hair. Line up the drafting square. Make a line. And do another one right there. 2 lines. Okay. So let's do this inside one first. This inside one is 6 inches. And it's basically measuring between the top and bottom board. So we can go ahead and line that up with our T-square. I'll line this up with the bottom of the board. Remember, we're not touching the board. Halfway across the first line, just like that. Same thing up here. Don't touch the board. Halfway across, just like that. So now we have these two lines right here. I'm going to erase my overlap. Make that go away. The measurement is 6 inches. So we'll erase a little bit of this right here. Throw in a 6 inches. And now this one's done. So let's go ahead and take a look at the top one. Top one is just from top to bottom of the drawing, so that's pretty easy. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Line it up with the top of our drawing. Don't touch the drawing. A little bit past. Just like that. Line it up with the bottom of our drawing. Don't touch it. Just a little bit past. Just like that. So now you have two lines right there. We'll erase our overlap. Just like that. Erase a little bit of the middle. The dimension, 7.5. Seven, 1/2. And I forgot to do all my arrows, so I'm going to do those right now. Happy little arrows right there. Alright. So the last step we're going to do here is actually not on your drawing, so you're going to need to pay close attention. Disregard this guy right here for now. We don't need that. We need to draw dimension lines that show the width right here. So what I'm going to do, pay close attention here, is I'm going to draw an annotation line 1/4 inch below the clock, 1/4, right there. Go ahead and, well, that's not quite 1/4 inch, Mr. Zink. Well, you're right. That's more like 3/16. Let's fix that. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1/4 inch. All right. Just gonna draw a short line right here. Just like that. All right. Now you can see this in the drawing I handed you, but I don't have it in mine. So I'm just gonna do this without referring to the drawing. I'm gonna line up right here along this inner edge. Just barely cross the middle. Right there. Right there. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Right there. That was the bell. Means I might have to take a break here. We'll do one more line right here. Alright, quick pause. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and erase our overlap lines here. Erase those. Erase all this in the middle, we don't need it. And erase all this on the edge. So you should have something that looks about like this. These two right here. We'll erase the middle. Actually, we won't erase the middle. We're going to go a little bit off to the side here, so go ahead and extend that line. 3/4. Happy little arrows. Extend this line too. 3/4. Happy little arrows. So you should have those included in on your drawing. Last thing we're going to do is we need to label some circles. We have this one, the outer one, and we need to label these guys right here because they also have dimensions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our T-square lined up with the board, grab my pencil, and we're just going to draw some small lines next to these circles. We're going to do a short one here, right down here. We're going to do a short one up here. And I'm going to do a short one kind of out there. I'm going to do one clear over here. Get a little crazy. Actually, that won't work at all, Mr. Sink. Sorry about that. It's going to be over here. Just like that. So now what we can do is we can take these lines we just drew and connect them to the circle with our straight edge. So one right here, throw in a happy little arrow. One right here, arrow. And one going down this way, arrow. So now we should have, get rid of some eraser shavings here, should have basically 3 leader lines. Now we just have to go through and label them. So this outer one is 4.5. So we'll label that. I'm going to erase a little bit of this so I don't cross into this line here. Don't forget your dimension symbol. 4.5 inches. I'm going to do this one up here. According to your drawing, this one is 3/8. 3/8 inches. And the last one we're going to do is over here. This one is also, don't forget your diameter symbol, 3/8 inches. Now this one over here should be, we're actually going to put so we're going to put 3/8 inches here. And while I'm thinking about it, we're going to go ahead and throw one up here as well so people can see it. So same thing as before. Leader line, an arrow, diameter 3/8 inches. All right. So that should be all of your dimensioning. Go ahead and zoom this out so you can see the whole thing. A lot of dimensions, but it's a big project. So once you're done, make sure you got everything erased that you need to, which it looks like we do. And you can go ahead and take your drawing off of your board. And that is it. Get the rest of this tape off. Ta-da. All right, that wraps up the board drafting unit. I hope it was somewhat fun for you. Thank you very much. Bye.